Hello everybody and welcome to round 2 of the Simufur AM Championship here from sunny Catalunya, where we're promised to be some great racing looking at the practice sessions. And yeah, we're here again. Yeah, my name is Hemi, brought to you once again. My co-commentator for the night will be Fezz Fox, and joined by our usual group of stewards as well, Nate and Spitzer, who will be keeping an eye on everyone. And from what I was looking as well in the Discord, the drivers have been told, round 1 was very good, but round 2, it is Catalunya after all. You're going to be penalised for lap 1 incidents, which around here a lot of people seem to like to go for the old cutback into turns 1 and 2. But looking at some of the cars and some of the balance of performance that we've seen throughout the week, and the practice times we've been laying down, we might be in for a quite good race at the front of the field.
Yep, looking at the times now, the Grim's kind of in the lead at the moment in these times, but going by the practice session, Surex has shown controversial pace, let's say. And
it has been it has been a case of discussion, I think, from the top almost 3 drivers, I'd say, as well, that that about their pace. So we might see some promotions towards the end of it. The other thing, though, that we've always said, it's very hard to judge someone from their practice pace. There might be an absolute brilliant qualifier, but just fall off in the race. We've seen that a few times. I mean, that was not the case for Blaze and Grim last week, but Catalunya, new track, new bop, new championship, and we've seen it before. Some of the with the championship being up and down all over the shop. Am and Silver champs are never won until they're over, because people, they maybe don't have that full consistency yet, and they just struggle at certain tracks, meaning that you can have, I think the record that I saw in a season, which was an 8-round season, we had 6 different winners, one that I commentated on, and that kind of shows what can happen for it. So for the 37, they'll want to try and get up there and cement their championship hopes. But today, at Catalunya at least anyway, the Honda not looking as comfortable as it did at Spa.
No, it seems to be a bit, shall we say, bopped around here, but going back to your previous point about the kind of bop affecting the track, you and I both know that one fast lap at one track does not a pro driver make.
No.
So we're really looking at consistency. If Surex continues his consistency, he might dominate the championship, but didn't really show too much pace in Spa, so let's see how it goes.
And you still have to kind of deal with your car's, foibles, and that's sometimes as well where people can qualify really well, but then they just can't get around the problems that their car has. Surex will definitely be having to struggle with the turbo lag, in the latter half of the circuit. It's very good downforce, the Aston Martin, but it also has a bit of a habit to be a bit, at least after the 1.8 update, be a little bit of a hairy handful. And if you start really pushing it on your tires, 29C track temp, but fast, so you're going to be sliding around and causing a bit of heat to build up in them. That can really start tumbling, some of these AM and Silver drivers. But as the time for the session comes to an end, few cars left running around, trying to get those crucial few practice laps in to gauge vaguely where they will be or what they need to do for setup, and we roll into qualifying.
Yeah, I just want to go back to your point about the likes of the car bop and stuff like that. It seems to be more, as you go down the lower classes towards AM, the cars are starting to make a bit more of a difference, whereas in an esports lobby, that the car doesn't really make that much of a difference. Someone can put a bad bopped car on pole because of their pace, but it just seems to be that there's kind of more of a variation in kind of pace from the cars here.
Yeah, all I will say to that is Joe McCauley. This is pre-patch, before the Honda was good. Joe McCauley could still put his Honda on pole in many of the RCI championships that I commentate on. He'd regularly pole that in a Honda. nowadays, after the patch, a lot of people, Zar, Blaze, and a few others, have actually been coming to us saying the Honda is good, and that's not just some of the AM drivers. You know, a lot of the pro drivers, like I said, the aforementioned Joe McCauley and a few people I work with have all turned around to me and says, yeah, Honda is now good. It's definitely definitely an interesting choice. I'm sort of keeping my eye on them through this season, seeing where what is their strengths and weaknesses now, because this car used to only be the IGTC car. If you weren't at, say, Laguna Seca or Bathurst, for example, you were going backwards, you were dead last. But it seems now that you can actually take the fight a little bit to the front of the field, and it will be Zar in the number 10 AlphaTauri Honda as well that will set the provisional sort of, the benchmark time, as long as it's not invalid. You want to really take those curves, sort of as much liberties as you can around this track, especially in the last sector. At 18 minutes of qualifying, you've got plenty of time to get your laps in. The track is still fast.
Well, it's kind of a thing about the meme becomes the OP, maybe. I don't know the phrase for it. The NSX was a meme beforehand.
The NSX was the ultimate cheese at Bathurst. What you did at Bathurst was you qualified, okay, you passed everyone after turn 1 coming into turn 2, held everyone up over the mountain, because really, how are you going to pass over there? And you blast away on the straights doing nearly 287 kilometers an hour. And that was Honda life, and no one could really touch you for it. It's a mid-engine car, but it was still, relatively speaking, quite stable, at least, versus a Lamborghini or an Audi, for example. So yeah, it just used to be that man is having some fun, because it's Bathurst. And how many times did actually we do one-off events? If it's a one-off event at Bathurst or, IGCC track, and there's open choice, you'd see the Honda go to a championship, even if those tracks exist. You want some.
That seems to be switched on its head now, so I would imagine it's still pretty high end up top speed.
But it is nice to see, and it's interesting to see what the future of ACC holds with that as well, because Kunos have now been given a bit more free liberties with the cars that are outside of the homologation as well. So we're talking GTR and old generation cars might actually be brought back a little bit more into line of competitiveness. I don't think you're really going to go and win your esports division in a Jag, for example, but it might make it just a little bit more interesting for some of the leagues. And Zar will cross the line. It will be a 147.9 as the benchmark to beat in qualifying, and that is immediately bested by Schurex in that 420 Aston Martin. Not far behind as well as Grim Lilith in the 105. 410 off, but we know that the Porsche usually takes at least more than one lap to really get on its pace.
Yep, as we're on board with following one of the newer names in the season, joined after round 1. Some might know as Azzy Airedale. Prominently an F1 esports driver, but he's bridged the gap over to ACC to join us.
He is trying his hand out at GT racing. Actually, I remember talking with Azzy a while ago when he when he first got into this and said, I want to do GT racing. And so I showed him obviously some of my laps, and then some of the responses were, how do you drive these? They're so heavy, so big, and they don't turn. Like, yes, it's a GT3 car. I mean, it has more turning and brakes and steering than a GT4 if you want to go try that. And the response I got was, no thank you. It's like, oh, come on. And now, if GT4 is just far too downforcey for you, we have the M2.
Yeah, we exchanged words after he took the Audi to Silverstone and tried to take cops flat out.
Yeah, that will not happen in a GT3 car. As much as your muscle memory wants to say that you can do that, you cannot. And this is another car as well that sort of people have been following. Seffi in the 222, the sort of the sister car for the Race Ventura team. Had a fairly good round 1 at Spa as well. We're going into try and cement that as Schurex once again goes faster, but then Grim Lilith goes almost identical faster. These two just improving, one lap after the other, but identical. It was 4 temps, then 8 temps, and then nope, we're back to 4 temps. What a cerulean got, one of our McLaren drivers. Brings it up a little bit of an improvement. At 1:48.4 was the last lap, puts them in 11th place, just outside that top 10, which is a nice thing to say when you finished in the top 10. And Skylar Vixen's going to go for a hard hit into the wall, into the final sort of chicane area. Just maybe a little bit confident on the car, and it is still a mid-engine, is the Honda. It will still rotate around you and bite you if you don't keep it in check.
Absolutely, it takes some finessing. But I was speaking about Seffi. She had a really good race last race. She just basically stayed out of trouble and went from, I think it was P16, I think, to it was a P9 at P10, I think she went.
It was P9 that the Triple Two driver finished in, which is you really can't complain at that. And that is sometimes, that is sometimes sort of people's strengths. We talk about the strengths and weaknesses, qualifiers and not qualifiers. Well, some people, they don't qualify very well, but they always race a lot better. That means then that in the championship, all those people at Seffi Pass will now be, trying to claw the points back here. Paula Brady, what an improvement all the way up to P3 in that Audi. That is the new gen Audi, followed by Charla, who's the old gen Audi, and then Azzy rounds out that as the newer gen one again. All the Audis have clumped together once again. What's Bracken got? The 77 OnlyFans car. It is P3 again, knocks Paula right off that.
This is going to be a very close qualifying.
Very, very close. I think the track must be starting to rubber in now, because times are starting to come down more and more. It has stayed at fast, but obviously being a dynamic track, it will just get that little bit better towards the end. 12 minutes remaining, there's still plenty of time for that to change. I think for a lot of these drivers, it's going to be the last dash to the line is going to be the fastest. Jasper improves up to the 6th place, so 1:46.3. So yeah, the times are really starting to come down now. Yep,
the Audi seems to be pretty evenly matched here between all 3 drivers on it today. Surprisingly though, Bracken's up there. He was kind of mid-pack showing in the practice sessions, so it's good to see him making use of that big downforce the McLaren generates to get it up there again.
He could have been running on race fuel though as well, because some drivers have noticed have actually started to practice more what the car does heavy, which is actually sometimes the harder point. The 176, that Sergel for the Leadport racing car as well, they managed to get up into the top 10, just about 9th place. Does Snowdog have anything to say about that? The lone Bentley driver, well, he can't quite get the 176, but he can get into the top 10.
Yeah, I think he'll be pleased with that. That's a good showing. He's been putting the work in the Bentley. He's asking for a lot of tips as he goes wide there into turn 2.
I know that feeling from the Bentley. that is the rear end has a brief nibble about you, and you kind of have to make the choice. Are you going to try fight it, or are you going to hit the eject button? And sometimes, better said, better thought about resets to pits. Still got plenty of time though. 10 minutes left, even with an out lap. We've still got at least a few laps as well. And what can Alexis in the number 15, speaking about cars that are lone Lexus, and this is a car as well that we used to see this an awful lot more, unless my memory is becoming strange, but this car used to be all over the place to the Lexus, and once again it's just kind of faded away as everyone's become McLaren mains, and for that for the number 15 up to 14th place, good improvement.
Yeah, I think it was more... Oh, there's Chuckles goes off for a bit of a spin in the final chicane. Yeah, the Lexus was more, let's take this in an endurance season, because if it rains, we're going to win kind of car.
Oh, yeah. the one that I will always remember, it was Imola, I believe, and it rained in a long RCI race, and there was a Lexus that lapped everyone, apart from Jardia.
Yeah.
That was it. The only person who stayed on the lead lap was P2, and that was Jardia, which kind of shows you what happens when you put a Lexus in the wet. It's kind of lost its edge though recently. A lot of cars seem to have changed in the wet. The Bentley used to be decent in the wet. It's now kind of okay. You can make it work, but it's not exactly easy. And a lot of other cars have kind of changed their dynamics, what will it be for Grim Lil? They've took a big bite out of the final chicane and threw that car over, and it will be a slight improvement. 3/10 off Surex and actually resets to the pits. Might be time for a set of, fresh tyres, take all the fuel out and just go for that, 1 or 2 banzai laps.
Yeah, the only person not to so far get a lap in is Silafin, as they run a little bit wide and invalidate that lap. But we are seeing everyone's kind of got their bankers in. I think everyone's going to kind of, I want to say stroll on back to the pits and get a new set of tyres and take some fuel out, but they're going to try and do this as quick as possible.
Yeah, and it's we've seen both sort of strategies work. I think it really depends on the driver. Some people actually like I know, at least for me, I always fuel up to go, the complete length of the qualifying. The tyres seem to settle themselves, the car settles, and you get into a bit of a rhythm. That's when I can do my fast laps. But I've seen plenty of people do 1 lap, reset, and then just go quicker again, and then do this 2 or 3 times per qualifying session. So it's sort of different strats for different drivers. What has Charter got? This is the old generation Audi. You've got to be very mindful of those curves, and not run too wide there on the final curve as well. The track limit will invalidate your lap in qualifying, but in the race, I know I've had a couple there. It will be a slight improvement as well for Charter. P4, the Audis are marching forwards and marching through the 77 McLaren.
Absolutely, this is going to be a little bit closer than everyone kind of expected, which goes to show you can't really go on what the website tells you when you check the practice times.
No, and sometimes as well, just in a qualifying session when you've actually got a bit of, I don't want to say meaning, but you know what I mean, when there's a target in front of you, when you're chasing cars around the track, when you've got that qualifying sort of timer running over your head, then then people actually sometimes find a little bit more pace. And speaking of finding more pace, Cerulean, the 94 up into the 13th place spot, really starting to punch up down there. I mean, if you look, there's 3 cars within 0.3 of a second, and 13th and 14th merely 200ths even of a second off one another. So that looks like to be a great battle shaping up for Chuckles. 448, we haven't really talked much about this driver. It looked like they had they were good qualifying in Spa, but just the heavy fuel Mercedes we think bit them, but it doesn't really seem to be a happy car here. I think the Mercedes, at least for me, it feels a bit too heavy and a bit too wayward around Catalunya to really, you want a car that is pointy and rotates under you, and Mercedes is kind of big, lumbering V8.
It's almost like there's a big shovel on the front of it, weighing it down, which there kind of is, I suppose. But yeah, you need something that can rotate well on the brakes here and keep the plenty of downforce as well, which is kind of 2 things the Mercedes doesn't really have.
Now, even with the 2020 update, the aero that it got given, which sort of hurt its straight line speed a little bit, it's still not exactly a McLaren. You're never going to, you're never really going to win the downforce wars with that car. The 115 as they come up to finish some of their last laps as well, and I think they've already had their outlap, and this will be some of the last flyers. I think they're really just trying to push everything they've got. This sector though, this is where the Porsche shines, the final sector. Lots of acceleration zones, a long sweeper that you can balance the car underneath you. You can run out wide there just as long as you don't touch the gravel. And here, it's off camber, downhill, and you can really, if you are brave, throw the Porsche. Look at that, neatly. You don't want to cut the chicane in a Porsche, it will bite you, but for the 115, very clean final sector. Will that be an improvement up to the line? It will. It's now 1/10 off Surex. That's a 45.1. If I was Surex, I'd be looking at that timing board, getting just a little bit concerned.
Yeah, they did. Grim lost maybe about 1/10.5, maybe into the hairpin there, and then gained it all back in the finish chicane. So there's definitely some time to be found there. Azzy again, that's the times are really creeping towards Surex now. He's definitely not safe there in pole, I don't think.
No, so as much as people thought that that driver might, just run away with the championship, it might not be. There might very much be a race on his hands there. I don't think he's just going to walk away with it. We saw what happened, when two drivers qualify very close at Spa with this driver, the 37, and the 115. Blaze could not shake Grim all race, and it was incredibly close. I think, had the pit stops worked out just a little bit differently, the Porsche would have been ahead, and that might have been it for the championship. 37 down in 9th place, still trying to get just that little bit of time. They will have at least a few more laps, I believe, looking at the time, so that if it's going to be close, they might get 2 more.
Yeah, that takes it back to that point as well. This is the characteristics of this circuit are quite different. So we have a massive run down to turn 1, and if it stays 1-2 as they are now, that Porsche is definitely going to be in the lead come turn 1.
Yeah, because the Aston Martin, unless you know how to brake boost it, which then we're starting to talk into techniques that I've seen not even all pro drivers use. Then that Aston Martin, you floor the throttle, and I think it sends a telegraph, to the engine. Please, can we have some acceleration? And the engine thinks about it. And the turbos finally do something. It's horrible off the start, whereas the Porsche is stab it and go.
I think what was it they had to do? They had to. ACC actually has the raise, the rolling start.
Because if you remember way back in the day, it was 60. It wasn't 70. It was 60, but the Aston Martins were...
It just suffered so much.
You could easily lose 3 positions depending on who's around you. Even more if it's a track like, I don't know, say Monza or Spa, where you've got the start fairly far down the straight. You just used to drop like a stone. They had to actually raise the speed up to 70, and that kind of helped them, but kind of didn't.
I see some improvement from Bolly here. She's about just over a tenth and a half up. Lost a little bit in the final chicane, puts herself P4.
So the Audis are still kind of bunching up.
As we missed, Grim has went first. We missed that.
And they have. Well, there you go. Grim actually found. They must have found that tenth and a half in the in that hairpin that you mentioned is half five hundredths faster is the 115, and we saw Schurex there briefly on the camera diving back out of the pit lane as he has returned to the pits. I don't think the 164 is going to go anymore as the 115. They're trying everything, throwing that car completely sideways. That will be terrifying in a Porsche, and even more sort of impressive when you consider this driver still races on a controller. Grim is probably the fastest controller player I have ever seen, really. The 115 will get one more go around, but this will be their final lap as the timer will run to 0 before they get round to the back of this. So if there's any time left on the board, they need to find it now, because Schurex, I don't think he's happy with that.
No, it didn't look like Schurex was going to get another lap in, but it might just cross the line in time. But yeah, that's no gap at all. That can be found in putting your big toe on the throttle a little bit earlier.
Absolutely. Oh, that is Chuckles in the Mercedes, the HRT car, backwards at... I can't even remember the proper corner names, but I think me and a lot of other drivers, I don't know about you, we call that the awkward corner. Just because... how do you take it? What is the line? I don't really know, and the track limits there are vicious.
Yeah.
It's also a place where in qualifying you just always invalidate your lap. But yeah, that sad end for Chuckles in the HRT Mercedes. Will the 113 Ferrari have anything to the line? Down in 15th, but if you look, it's not that far away from Cerulean in the McLaren, and they have already come into the pits. They have finished up their shot. I don't think they'll get to the line before the green flag. And in fact, no, they do, because it hasn't shown up yet. So the 113 will have another lap, but it looks actually like they're slowing down. So 15th place for the 113. Grim's being held up by the 15. We saw a flash of the lights. Maybe Grim was up a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be any more. Coming to the line, across the line, both of them. It's Grim Lilith to take P1, well, at least until Schurex crosses the line, and the 15th will take 19th.
Yep, the only one now improving is Blaze. Everyone else is either losing time or is in the pits. So, judging by these times, we can take everything we learned at Spa and throw it out the window.
Pretty much.
Apart from Grim. Grim's the only one who's really...
I was going to say, the only thing that we can confirm is that Grim is still fast.
Well, Grim, Paula, Charter and Bracken are kind of the only ones who are still up where they should have been. Or where they were last
But you know as much as me as well that Catalunya is also really a Porsche happy track.
Yeah.
Like if you were going to pick a car...
That turn 3 is really excruciating in the Porsche.
Turn 3 is terrifying because you've got to be so gentle on the throttle. And Blaze, the 37, will cross the line, will retain the P9 in qualifying, but possibly wanted just a little bit more from that car.
Yep, and as we're waiting for the next session, we'll run through the leaderboard of the championship. As you can see, in first place, Blaze takes home 26 points with a pole position, and Spa gets him an extra point. And then we have Grim in second on 22 points, Paula in third on 20, Bracken in fourth on 18, Charter in fifth with 16, and then it kind of runs down 15, 14, 13, 12. You've got Charter, I already said Charter, Shurex, Czar, Skylar, and Sephi, and then Chuckles round out your top 10 with 11 points. Surdy in P11 with 10 points, Bunny, Jamie in 12th with 9. And 13th is Pablo with 8 points. Snoodog in 14th with 7. ZZ in 15th with 6. They are no show today. They've got other things on today. Ant is 16th with 5 points. 17th is Jasper with 4. 18th is Wolfen with 3. Sarah in 19th with 2. Alexis in 20th with 1 point. And Skylar and Parakas, I'm going to say. Both 21 and 22nd with 0 points.
Yeah, so still plenty of points on the table for a lot of these drivers, and you're just trying to grab everything you can. Looking at I was looking at the championship just then as well, and as much as for now the Porsche, it always looks like it's going to be a dominating affair. The track after this for next round is Paul Ricard, and
it's going to be wet.
Yeah, we did talk about that, and how Bop changes people, but a wet Paul Ricard. If you can't nail those first few corners of your Porsche and you get stuck coming onto the straight with anyone behind you who's got more speed, some of the Hondas, I think the Audi is not too bad again. The Ferrari is one that is like an absolute rocket ship there. That's going to hurt you, and you're going to end up sort of stuck behind them again.
Well, that's you're going to have to use the advantage if the Porsche does qualify well. You try and build a gap in that first sector as much as you can, because you're just going to be sitting duck on the straight.
Yeah, so that's as much as these two drivers, or this set of drivers might look like they're edging out a good points advantage. It's always a case of what car have you picked for the season? Not for the not for the few rounds, but for the season. And I think towards the end of it, we might actually see some surprise cars. Might slowly start creeping the way back up. But now we swap to the grid. Everyone lining up. You've got around about 3 minutes to sort of make your strategy. Remember how much fuel you actually used and what your tire pressures are. 26C here at Catalunya, so quite mild really for Spain. We normally see quite a high temperature, but the cloud cover today has kind of helped dull that down. Fast track though, a lot of the drivers will really have to keep that in mind, that the grip levels that they might have had in qualifying might have decreased just a little bit at the race start. And as it says, live stewarding, everyone is going to have to be on their best behavior. And actually looking in the race, in the drivers sort of radio areas, we've just seen Nate, our steward, reminder that formation lap is starting, and sort of it will be starting soon. And watch your lap 1.
Yeah, no hand holding this time around. You're going to be punished hard if you do something a little bit silly. So hold those brakes and don't rejoin the track that compromises or hits anyone else, basically. Any predictions other than probably Grimm's gonna have turn 1, but I think Surex is they're gonna be hassling them the whole time. I think this is gonna come down to pit stops.
I have a sneaky feeling as well that the Audi, of Azzy might slowly start to to come into this battle as well. As much as they were about 3 tenths off in qualifying when the cars got it's got a little bit of toe behind them. I think that Audi might be able to do something with it. I think Grimm's definitely going to get the launch on the Aston Martin, but I mean that is very much a given. I'm just wondering, can any of the three that Audis are populating, rows 2 and 3 respectively, can any of them get also around the 420? Because if they do and they get stuck fighting with the Audis, that as much as well as I do, that the Aston Martin is a struggle coming out the corners. It's hard to battle people, and that really might hurt the points championship for the 420.
Yeah, and let's not mention just how hard it is to actually pull an overtake off in this track. But yeah, you make a good point there. The 3 Audis, they're going to be super strong with their top speed as well. They're going to be very strong off the line here. I think we're going to see the widest Aston in history at the start.
10 seconds.
Well, they're going to have to make it at least one Catalunya wide if they don't want to lose anything on the straight. It is just kind of the moment of the Aston Martin, as I says, you can kind of sometimes get around it by brake boosting and getting the turbos spooled up, but that's actually a lot harder than you think. I've been practicing it recently, having to drive the M6 in a championship, which is also, I think it has turbos the size of dustbins, which you can physically hear them spool up. It takes so long to do anything. Yeah. So yeah, you have to get used to it, but it's a very hard skill to master.
I guess it's kind of a risky run as well. It's you could end up with a penalty by brake boosting and being that little smidge over the limit.
Well, you either go one way or the other. You either a little bit smidge over the limit, or you end up being too slow, and then you want to maximize everything. If you could be that meter or so closer to the person in front, well then you're that little bit closer that you might be able to go to for something coming out of turn 1 possible. But yeah, it's a hard skill, and as we watch the cars on the formation lap, people weaving, trying to get some heat in the tires, trying to brake boost, get some heat into the brakes as well, because everything will be stone cold on these. Although they do have tire warmers, it will start to cool off around the track on the 26C.
And just in case anyone's wondering, the 5-second penalty on Lexus has is from the Spa race for blue flag infringements. That's during qualifying. That's for round 2. That's a qualifying infringement during qualifying here. That's not from Spa at all. There's ignoring blue flags.
That was the blue flag infringement in the final chicane. If you remember, we saw that when Grim Lilith caught all the way up.
Yeah.
And then there was the 15 there. That was the flash of the lights. Just ended up with a Lexus there. It could have been an even, maybe another little improvement for the 115. Be interesting to see though what the race pace of that car is.
I think then what are you expecting from the tires here? They're going to need a lot of warming up, but I think this fast track is going to hurt them in the start.
The fast track is definitely gonna be very much a consideration, because you start and you've got to have got some kind of heat into them, but it's a long old run down from going too wide, which we will do in a moment here, to the green flag, and then it's an even longer run down to turn 1. You sort of turn 1, turn 2 are not necessarily very fast corners, they're too sharp, 90 degrees. But turn 3, that really puts a strain on the tyres, and it really just starts to grain them if you're not careful. And you do that for 2 or 3 or 4 laps, and there goes your race pace. So I'm expecting to see some of these cars, particularly Grim in the Porsche as well, might even have to take it easy for the first lap or so, just to get until you've got everything settled on that Porsche, because welcome to Porsche life. You have to work with the car, as much as as much as you want to just go for it. It will be too wide. It's Grim Lilith, the 115 for the Race Ventura car to lead us away. We're looking for the green flag, and off we go. An immediate dart to the outside by Grim Lilith. Actually, it almost looks like they're trying to give Shurex just a little bit of a tow, but it's too wide, 3 wide even, 2 Audis, as he has the great launch off the line. Paul is trying to follow him through, and this is what I feared. The 420 might lose out. They have the outside, turns into the inside, but then turn 3 comes, the longest on the circuit, and you hung out to dry again on the outside. The 420 slots back in. He's actually looking for the undercut as he runs a little bit wide there.
Yep, brilliant start to the race. No kind of accidents by the looks of it, but Shurex is definitely trying to regain those lost positions.
Well, as starts go for the Aston Martin, that's not too bad really. You've only lost 1 to one of the Audis, and they're starting to pull maybe a tiny bit of a gap. But yeah, very very clean start so far. Not what I've seen anyway. I haven't seen many, if any, yellow flags. I think there might have been a little bit of a touchy in some of the backgrounds. I think some of the 555 107. They've had an incident.
Just looks like they got on the grass and lost control there.
I was going to say, just as I was thinking the 107, that is what happened to that 107 BMW, but other than that, a very clean start. People trying to duck and dive coming into their hairpin. There's people trying to fight for space. All the Hondas now, we seem to have the Honda Cup. You've got Blaze, Zar, and Skylar have all got that bunched up as well. We had the bunch of Audis briefly, we've now just got the bunch of Hondas.
Yeah, goes to show maybe they are just kind of bop restricted here, and it's all down to the driver now. But yeah, it's looking good so far. Shurex still right on the tail of Vazzy, and Grim's just 2-second gap already on 1 lap. That's what they needed.
That does show how comfy they are though in that Porsche.
Charger going for a move on Bracken. Bracken defends a little bit.
Bracken defends it. Charter looking for the outside, trying to go for maybe a cutback maneuver. Once again, it's going to try for the switch over. It's still the inside is blocked for the 24. Can they sort of tuck it in tight? The McLaren will run out wide all the way out to the AstroTurf. I think once again they're going to be side by side coming into turn 4. The 24 looks like they're backed out of it slightly, and there you go. The 77 regains the pace, but the Audis, all sort of both Audis as well, all 3 Audis, they're looking very very strong in the early race pace.
Yeah, whether or not it's tire temperatures or just confidence, they're definitely, they're looking strong at the start of the race. Shurex is still hassling Ozzy. I think this is probably going to be what we're stuck on for most of the race here, is this battle.
But as we sort of mentioned earlier, both those drivers, are quite new to ACC, so you might see some very interesting battles as well as they try to get the grips from GT3 machinery. You see Jasper going for a move up his fellow Ferrari, and that is a mistake easily done.
3 cars past now.
Oh, Jasper goes with a massive dive bomb into the hairpin. There's more contact on the exit. I think they've actually let the other Ferrari through, but that is a move and a mistake that is so easy to do. You go for the inside for that corner, but it tightens up on you. The door will kind of always close. It's just the line.
Yep. Oh dear. What happened there?
Sarah off. Sarah and the 223. At least they once again they seeming to have read the driver's briefing as well about hold your brakes in an accident. As we saw, Ferrari stopped dead. Sarah just didn't see anyone stop in front of them. Ferrari spins around as well on the exit curb, and brakes hard held. That the car will be carrying a little bit more damage now than when it started this race.
Just seemed to be, it looked like, excuse me, I'm losing my words here. Looks like Jasper maybe letting Chuckles through by the looks of it on that corner, just cut Sarah in unawares.
Yeah, when you sort of trying to the early race, you're thinking about many things, your tyres, your fuel, what the strategy is, how it's going, maybe how the start was, and you come around the final corner and there's too wide, stopped at a speed you are really not expecting, and a Mercedes that's rejoining the track from the left side, so it just catches you off guard. So for those a little bit of more damage on those cars, but continuing on, still do have that pit stop. Obviously, we'll have to wait for the pit window, but it does mean that they can at least, repair the damage and continue on. It is not as race destroying that Spa was that we remember.
Yeah, any penalties, drive through or otherwise, aren't too detrimental to your race now. Yeah, the gaps seem to be opening up a little bit. We have Charter is trying to catch Bracken. That's the closest battle we have at the moment. I think Charter's going to struggle to get past the McLaren here. It's very fast in a straight line.
Yeah, just got to try and tuck into that slipstream and be close enough down the straight. I think it's going to be, they might be within striking distance. Just the Audi does have quite a good top end, but you see the acceleration of the McLaren, that's kind of it. You're already too far away by the time you've got to turn 1. And I saw briefly as well that 115 held the fastest lap, immediately bested by Azzy, immediately bested by Schurex. So those front 3 drivers, they are on it, but Schurex, at least at the moment anyway, holds that purple lap and continues to chase down Azzy half a second behind. And Grim actually is, they pulled out a 2-second gap. It's kind of stabilised there a little bit, but if you look, 1.9 seconds, the early charge just might be slowing down a little bit for the Porsche as these two finally get up to temperature and finally up to sort of, racing speed. Perhaps as well that Schurex is at least at the moment anyway, just kind of following Azzy, because it doesn't look like he's going for any brash moves, and it doesn't look like Azzy's really slowing him down. At least, to the extent you'd think you have to make a pass now.
Well, that's kind of the smart thing to do. These guys need to work together and not let Grim get away. So the more they battle, Grim's just going to walk away. So work together, put in fast laps, then towards the end of the race, get your elbows out and start fighting each other.
Yeah, because they've also got a 2.3 second gap to the next Audi, as Paul and Brady. They've fallen off, and that's kind of what we mentioned, that a good qualifying doesn't necessarily mean a good race, and it looks like Charter has actually managed to get around Bracken. 77 runs
too wide
in the hairpin. There goes the Audi up the inside, and it will be move even. I was going to say move done before the next corner. 24 gives them space, hangs it all the way around the outside. It's a long old way to do. You're still on the outside, swoops across, takes the outside line, and then for the 77, you're kind of stuck on the outside for the chicane there. No matter really what you try and fight, it's kind of lost at that point. So for the 77, one down, one position, try and get it back. And what has happened to Skylar in one of our Hondas? Has misjudged turn 1 and has managed to.
Caught a bump.
I was going to say has managed to save it. It's just like I said, bump on the outside. The Honda snapped, spun round. At least no damage. Didn't make the wall.
Yeah, that's at least the saving grace. There's no damage from that. Just a bit of hurt pride.
It's brilliant trying to look up on the outside of the 15. They will still get around the 15 in the pit stop with that extra 5 seconds, but you don't want to be held up at all, does Cerulean, and they're in one of the hardest places in sim racing anyway. That I think you're the sandwich here. You know that you're trying to get around the Lexus. It kind of looks like the car does have the pace in certain sectors, but you've also got to be very, very careful and wise when you pick your move, because Pablo in the Honda behind, they will quite happily, take the opportunity. If you open the door, if you go for a move on the car in front of you and it doesn't pay off, you can find yourself losing a position. And then you've also always got to be mindful that in a straight line, the Honda will still try and pull on you. So you've got to make the exits onto any long straight good enough that you're outside of the striking range.
It's kind of the worst summer to be in, isn't it? The Lexus is no slouch in a straight line, and the Honda's definitely no slouch in a straight line either. So I think the McLaren, the only thing going for it's cornering ability over the other two cars.
Yeah, and I mean, here we go. You've got to the straight now, and the Lexus is kind of gone. And even despite the slightly poor exit from Pablo behind, if you look, they are closing in a little bit towards the end of the straight, and Skylar's also not too far behind from recovering from that spin. They'll be getting a fantastic tow down the straight as well. And Honda with tow. That is a scary thing to think about with the speed that you can get.
Yeah, especially with how long the straight is here too. There's nothing really you can do other than make your car as wide as you can.
Yeah, and then you end up with moments when you're going into T1 into 3 and 4 wide because everyone's kind of caught up to each other, gone side by side, and then you lose the slipstream and just the air resistance slows you right down. So it's just one of those moments as well. And now it almost looks like for the 77 of Bracken as well, it looks like the 176 of Dat Sergel for the Led Paul Racing Team. Looks like they've actually managed to get that Mercedes up to pace. Mercedes, though, I do know for a fact it takes multiple laps for this car to get its tyre pressures up. You know, I'm talking maybe 4 or 5 or 6 before you can really start to be happy with the car. So I'm not quite surprised. Oh, Skylar Vixen and Pablo went wide on the exit there. You see, we ended up coming back on the track sideways. Just caught the 660 out completely. It's the 448 nearly also goes for a sort of half spin, still trying to battle the 113 as well. They're too wide into the final chicane. You gotta be careful not to run wide. That Mercedes has already been wide, once today, and I think they might just about keep the position there.
Yep, it's all kicking off now. As Alexis, even with, I think they started, 18th, 19th, they're up to 12th now. After quite a few people have fallen off the road. Yeah,
which is that, just that consistency. They're trying to actually get around the 222 of Seffi, the other race Ventura car as well. Another car that we haven't talked about because we haven't need to talk about just once again, exactly like Spa. Just kind of stayed out of the way, stayed out of trouble, and just kind of got into the rhythm and happily lapping around. But it looks like the 15 Lexus might want to liberate them of their position. Thing is, though, even if they do get past the 222, all they have to do is stay within that 5 seconds, within a reasonable gap, and they will catch way back up on the pit stops. So at least for the moment, the 222 needs to stay ahead.
It certainly looks like the pace is there. So we'll see how that pans out over the course of the race. As Surex is now right up behind Azzy, and they seem to have lost a little bit of pace to Grim here. That gap did come down to about 1.8 seconds, and now it's back up to 2.5. So maybe these guys are fighting a bit too early.
Yeah, I think Surex has maybe decided that actually, he does want around Azzy. Who actually now that is the best lap, fastest lap of the race has changed now to the 164 Audi. So yeah, maybe the pace on the one lap is there, but it just seems that Surex is able to reel Azzy in. On the laps where he maybe has that one bad exit, just a little bit of an issue, and then the Audi powers away again, and all the meantime Grim is just sort of running clean, consistent laps.
Yeah, basically all Grim has to do is get it through the pit stop and get it home, as long as these two keep holding each other up and fighting each other. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I wonder, has Surex done a little bit of a better job keeping his tyres in check at the start of the race here, and Azzy's maybe starting to pay the price a little bit from pushing too hard too soon?
It is a possibility. I've never actually run the new sort of the new Audi myself in a long stint. I've talked to drivers who have, and they've told me we did one at Nürburgring Endurance, and I had the same thing. At the end of a stint, I was catching a teammate in the Audi whole seconds a lap, and when I asked about what happened, they said I pushed too early and the tyres completely fell off, just like from underneath me, because the new Audi as well, it's been made a little bit safer to drive, a little bit more happy, and a little bit it's much more akin to your gentleman driver. Problem is though, then you've got to push incredibly hard to get the same pace that the old Death Trap may have, but you've still got the same problem as a mid-engine where the rear tyres just are constantly on fire.
Yeah, it comes back to that thing as to whether or not, do you need to push early? Why push that early if you don't need to? Oh, there's a bit of a dive there from Alexis, but no doors. Seffi closed it pretty early.
Yeah, but the 15 is now basically in prime position. They're right behind a new BMW. This car is not particularly
Look at the speed.
And look at this. There you go. the 15, no slipstream, no anything, powers round the the 222. That car isn't damaged or anything. They haven't got any aero damage that would slow them down. Oh, there's a touch on the 222 as the 15 spins. I was just about to mention look at how fast the 222 is through the corners where they're trying to, where the BMW really shines and it just doesn't have it in the straights. And yeah, we saw it exactly there, and just that is the problem when you try to use your car's ultimate speed when there's someone directly in front of you.
Just go back to this front battle here. They're now down to 4 seconds behind Grim. This is, yeah, I think Shurex is really going to have to get past Azzy here. I think Azzy's just chewed the tyres up too early, and he's now paying the price for it.
Yeah, it would seem so. Looking at some of the times that they've been setting to the last laps versus Grim, like I said, they are definitely falling off. I'm just thinking as well. It's going to be very, very hard for Shurex. I'm trying to think, if I was that Aston Martin driver, where would I pass? And a lot of the places where I would think about passing in my Bentley don't work with the Aston Martin just because of the turbo lag. It's going to have to be he's going to have to be basically glued to his bumper coming down the straight, and I think turn 1 is likely going to be your area unless Azzy makes a mistake, because in the middle sectors and the end, I'd say that the the Audi has the advantage of the Aston Martin.
Yeah, I think I haven't driven the Aston in a while, but last time I drove it, it wasn't too hot in the brakes either, so that kind of takes away that option, as well as we have quite a number of penalties coming through here. Let's take a look and see what we've got. So we have a penalty for the... Hang on. What's the drive-throughs for? Oh, drive-through. We're getting drive-throughs for incidents. So these are really harsh penalties we're getting here now. Yeah, but the incident between the 94 and the 555, no further action, and then the 555 and the 177, which is Snow and Skylar. Sorry, Snow and... It is Snow and Skylar. We go drive through for car 11 somehow. I don't know. I don't know how that works out. Cars 555 and 117. We've got a penalty for car 11. Yeah, I don't know. I think they've maybe messed up that little bit of piece of paper. We'll see if we can get a correction on that. But some drive-throughs are being cleared here. Penalties gone, penalties coming, penalties going.
Yeah, penalties sort of coming and going as they were. We'll keep you updated on that anyway. But looking back to the battle at hand, Shurex, like I say, it just seems to be just outside that striking range of the Audi every single time you want to get to it. The gap kind of has stabilised. I think it's just the consistency. I think when they close right up is when Azzy's had that one bad lap, and Shurex has just kind of been able to run that consistency. But because of that, when they do bunch up and there's nowhere for them to go, they just both lose that time, to Grim. Who's completely out in the fresh air, nobody around, nothing to really worry about. And in the background as well, these two can't fight too much, even if Shurex manages to get, say, alongside. Because Paul is only 3.5 seconds behind, and I know well enough that, if you start fighting, that can easily evaporate as the 222's under fire. That is Skylar in the 660, I believe, and the 15 from earlier, also still trying to get back around. The BMW manages to hold it through turns 1 and 2. That's where that car is, just phenomenal handling-wise. It just doesn't have it in the straight line, and where the Honda is happy, the 660 can't make it work before the next corner. Yep.
Skylar in a recovery at the moment. They had a bit of an incident down turn 1 when they went a bit wide and caught the gigantic bump on the outside of the track. So she seems to have a bit of pace in her. Maybe she can grab a top 10 here.
Yeah, so the 660 trying to get through on their recovery drive.
This looks a little bit closer now.
You've got to get through your drivers, and yeah, the 420 is slowly reeling in, managing to use the slipstream. Also look up ahead. That is Sarah as well. That is the 804, I believe it is. So could bank marker traffic play into this battle? 604 even, I do apologise. So I'm wondering if back marker traffic might play into this.
It all depends really on how Sarah manages these blue flags. Surex could really use these to his advantage here. He kind of needs to try and use them to his advantage. Just place Azzy a bit where he doesn't want to go. Show him the nose, you know, throw the dummy, anything to put him offline to try and get anything, any kind of mistake. But they both go through pretty cleanly. Sarah gets out of the way nicely.
Yeah, I thought that as he might have been held up on the sort of outer edge of that corner, whereas I thought might bring the Aston Martin in, but then they equally also had to slow on the apex to not hit the 604. So once again, you know, just sort of equals it out, I think, and the 660 still trying to get around the 15 as well. It looks like as these two are battling as well, the 222, Seffi slowly can pull away. You just about see them in the front, and actually that's Snowdog as well, our lone Bentley. They're looking at the back of this sort of with the best view of the show as it was, because you can kind of pick your moments when, you know, these two are fighting or they make a mistake, go too wide, really slow each other down, and you can power through. For the 222, they'll just be having eyes forward and think, you know, the more they battle, the better it is for them.
Yeah. Oh, as we have Azzy into the pits early. Pit window is open. So he's wanting rid of those tyres ASAP.
Yeah, as he's immediately into the pits, and like I said, that even means that tyres were not to Azzy's liking in the 164, or it could mean that they kind of formulated that and they've been on such low fuel because they knew that they thought that maybe track position was, you know. As the 660 hits the inside of the curb, it ramps the car up, and then you are just sending it for a spin. Ends up coming across the nose of the 15 and Snowdog, so the 15 ends up sandwiched between a Honda and a Bentley sandwich. Heavy, I'm sure there will be heavy damage on, you know, well, at least the 15 Lexus, definitely the Bentley a little bit, and the Honda to an extent. But at least for them, the pit window is open, and as I say that, the Honda dives into the pit lane to fix that damage. Skylar is in as well as the Ferrari Palsecas. They're in as well in the 1.3.
Yep, as he now leaves the pits, so he's done his pit stop, and we do have a drive-through for Seffi by the looks of it. That one looks like it might be sticking. Let's have a look. Yeah, 222 car, basically drive through for contact and not giving the position back.
Yeah, which I think was the contact that we saw earlier on with the 15. You know, when it was turn one and they tried to, you know, really tried to use what BMW had, but just couldn't do that when the Lexus was there, and the drivers were warned about that takeouts would be penalised a lot harder. It was a 15-second last week for Spa race. It's now been upgraded to a drive-through, kind of to, you know, really hone in that you know, this, you do this and it will affect your race quite badly. And now they're under fire as well from Jasper in that 223 Ferrari, and they've kind of had another day where they, you know, it looks like the car qualified well and they just had issues here and there or spun off, so kind of go on a little bit the recovery drive again, almost a bit of a mirror of Spa.
Yeah, they seem to be recovering quite well as Seffi has to cut the chicane there, and she will come into the pits to get that pit stop out of the way and get that drive-through done. Oh, she'll need to do the drive-through and then she'll have to pit again.
Yeah, you'll have to serve the drive-through before you can serve your mandatory pit stop. You can do one of them first, so you could do your mandatory pit stop and then do your drive-through. But most times it doesn't make sense to do that. We have that circle, the 177, the 176 car as well.
Is it just me, or is that a long stop for the Ferrari?
It does appear to be a long stop. I also thought that that Mercedes was carrying damage on the left side. It almost looked like.
Definitely had some left-hand damage, but seems to have been repaired now.
Yeah, so the 176 comes out, and that will complete their mandatory stop. back on the charge, managed to get out ahead of Sefi as well, so no real traffic for them ahead. And this is a battle that we've seen all too well. It happened at Spa, could happen here again. Seems that the 24 of Charter, it does seem that the new gen Audi sort of falls off a little bit towards the end of its stints, and and the old gen just keeps on going. We saw this at Spa, and pretty much exact same thing happened right up until Charter made that mistake going over Eau Rouge Radion. So I'm willing to bet that this is going to be a good battle to see.
Well, it's basically just the second chapter in this book, isn't it? It looks like we're going to continue as we left off in Spa with a good battle between these two. But yeah, Paula's really kind of fallen off the pace here, a little bit wide into turn 4 there. Look at how close Charter is now. Oh, it's going to press the issue.
Yeah, it's trying to look, this way, that way, trying to put the nose anywhere and make Paula drive in the mirrors. If you can make someone drive in the mirrors for that split second, then that can be all you need, especially at, a track like this at Catalunya, where a lot of the corners really require, your attention because they're offline or, blind, off-cambered. You've got to really remember what's going on. And there is just in the foreground of the shot as well, Sherrex is being relieved of Azzy. He'll now be wanting to put in some really good laps, for 2 or 3 times to try and sort of overcut his opponent to come out ahead of that Audi. But it's going to be tricky, and the 24 really closing up now in the final sector. I do feel from looking at this as well that 24 has got a little bit more rubber left on the tyres.
Yeah, Charter's lines are way tighter, so there's definitely more grip in that old generator than there is in the new one right now. But let's see, they'll probably just exchange top speeds here. Let's see what their top speeds are actually while we're at it. Charter actually has 4 kilometers on Paula on the streets.
I think that's kind of what we alluded to earlier as well, was that the new generation requires you to push harder for those lap times. It is stable, but you have to push hard, meaning you're probably going to burn up your tyres a little bit more. And I think the top speed will also be because that new gen carries more aerodynamics to make it that little bit sort of safer. So like all the cars, it kind of seems the way GT cars are going nowadays. I mean, if you think back to GT1 era, everything was just about speed. We didn't have any cornering, we didn't have any electronics, we didn't have anything, we just had speed. Early GT3s as well, there was a lot of speed. I'm looking at V12 Aston Martins and the early generation GTRs. I mean, hell, even if you've driven the old generation Bentley, that's quick, that is no slouch for how big the car is. But the more and more modern GT3s become, the more aerodynamics and the slower they're becoming. New generation Audi, new generation Mercedes, the new BMW, they are all slower than their older counterparts.
Yeah. So we see there a stop go 30 for Skylar. I'm guessing that's going to be for a pit speed infringement.
Could be as well, because Catalunya is a vicious track on the the in-road. It's boxed in. It's sometimes hard to see the line, and if someone knocks over the pit board, well then there you go. That'll be exactly why they've sped in, possibly. And if you don't practice your pit stops, you will know if the marker isn't there. But you always get told, never have a marker that can be removed. Brake boards and everything. If it can be removed, don't use it, because you can guarantee in a race someone will hit it.
It harks back to the complaints we got after, I think it was season 2 at Donington, where there's about 6 braking boards you can take out in the formation lap if you really wanted to. And the argument was, well, you should have picked somewhere that that you can't lose during the race, because even mistakes can take those boards out. So just have somewhere rock solid that's not going to move position to map out your braking points.
I'm looking at the Kyle Army, the final 50 board. That is always taken out. There's a few of us, the 100 board at Nürburgring. Yep, that'll always be gone, guarantee it. And a few of us like that never pick something that can be removed, because it'll probably be gone. Someone will hit it. Even if you think it's miles off the track. And I mean, I'm looking at the one of the Sunoco boards at Oldham Park. Why would you be over there? Well, someone went over there, and if you use that as a braking board, it's now gone.
You can pretty much guarantee that if it can move, it will move.
Yeah, pretty much, especially in a long endurance race or a grid with a lot of drivers, a lot of cars on it. Yeah, they will test the limits, and they'll remove things that you didn't even think could be removed.
The 150, the 100, and the 50 at the Chase in Bathurst. Every single race.
Oh yeah, usually it's sort of
all three.
Usually it's like the 200 that disappears first if someone's gone completely sideways and ended up all the way down. But yeah, they'll usually all go. And Surex for the Lead Paw Racing team has pulled in, as well as the race leader, the 115 Grim Lilith for the Race Ventura car, all in at basically the half mark. Have decided to split the race directly into, which is another thing as well that you kind of see different in pro to Anfield, is that back when ages ago, everyone you either used to try undercut your opponent, or you used to split the race in dead half. But nowadays, even with races that have pit windows, you see everyone coming in literally the last minute, because people who pit early just seem to lose out in some of the pro lobbies. It's strange to see sort of the meta, as it were, of the game changing round year after year and patch after patch, because you can never sit still in Assetto Corsa Competizione. You just can't, because you'll be completely left.
Well, that was kind of the point I was going to bring up, is Azzy's early pit stop might get in the jump on a few of these people. Like, he's not overly far away from Grim during a pit stop. He's quite close, but that's going to really hurt him towards the end of the race.
Yeah, towards the end of the race, those tyres are going to start to once again just be that little bit sad, and then if you do get the jump on the Porsche in the final sector where you need the grip, where you need the tyres to work with you. Careful, Charter. Sideways coming down the pit lane, hard on the brakes, and there's the line. But yeah, that was nearly a scary moment for the 34. Leaves Paula to continue on, and there goes the 164 out. Azzy he's not a million miles away.
Although he's gained around 6 seconds on Surex, and Grim's nearly 20 seconds ahead of Bazik. Sorry, no, I'm reading that wrong. It's 7 seconds.
So 7 seconds, so they've lost a little bit of time as the 115 slides through the final sector. Got to remember to get those pressures up and get it. That's the other thing with the Porsche. You get used to the feeling of it with no fuel in the tank. Suddenly you slap all the fuel in it, and you've got to completely rethink how to drive the race car again. But Azzy has really jumped Surex, so the undercut has worked for them, and the overcut for the Aston Martin driver Surex has not, and then we'll just have to see where people else cycle out. Charter has dropped off the jacks in that Audi as Paula continues racing around, and that is actually quite a big leap as well.
That is a very big leap.
So there's 20.
No, sorry. Yes, we haven't updated yet. That's why these guys are coming around turn 3. I thought Charter had beaten them both out of the pits there.
The timing screens are always a bit funky around pit stop times.
Yeah,
you wait till sector times, but there you go. So Azzy still with the fastest lap of the race. Charter's around about 4 seconds. The 148 comes screaming into the pits.
That's too fast.
That is too fast past the line. There is the pit in, but I think we might be seeing an SG30 for the 148. That is, you've got to push it towards the line, yes, but there's always that case for, well, you lose half a second coming into the pits, but you don't get is a stop go 30. We'll have to see when that car leaves. But yeah, Azzy Grim Lilith leads over Azzy, who's about looking at the timing board and doing some vague maths. It's around about maybe 8, almost 9 seconds. Jada then is behind them, 4.2 seconds behind and then Surex is 1.8 behind them. So Surex has definitely got some work, up ahead if he wants to get back in. These guys as well, Blaze and Bracken, both of them have pitted in the 37 and the 77. Resumed the battle from earlier on. It's Honda, good straight line speed, but maybe not fully, not as good in the corners versus McLaren, where you just turn in and sort of it goes. It's like a go-kart.
I'm just trying to see. No penalty. Oh no, she said sorry. SG30. Yep. Called it.
Yep. So
so
Paul has got. Paul ended with an SG30. And she swapped to Cerulean there. I saw the pit limiter come off. So the 94 as well has had an issue with the pit limiter. I think by then they had sorted it out, but it was coming in.
Yeah.
That I saw that car in the background sort of speed up, that we could see from the comms box. So I think we might be seeing another SG for the 94 for Paul Brady. It's a sad day because if you look, they're right there. Azzy is right there, just in front of them.
That was the gap. I'm speechless. I don't know. That was two amazing pit stops by Charter and Paul. It really brought them back into contention for the podium places here.
Apart from the
apart from the SG.
If Paula had been literally that half a second slower, just hit the brakes just a little bit earlier, then that would have been that. It would have been a monumental pit stop. And like I said, Azzy is right there, Charter is right behind, and they've all leaped Shurex.
Yeah, Shurex have been from 3rd to 5th now. Probably a net 4th then after Paula's penalty here. But is that just a case of not practicing your pit stop? That's all it can really be, isn't it? You pick a point and you know when to brake. If you don't brake by there, you're getting a penalty.
Yeah, and it must have been for the 420s that they must have either been shuffled or completely missed it. If you are so far out of the pit, it won't even pick your car up to shuffle you back into the box. You will just have to put it in reverse and do it yourself. And there you go, Paul Brady into the pits to serve that SG30 pretty much immediately. A sad day for the 148. Once again, showed some great pace, showed some great racing, and played that pit stop absolutely to a T. Just apart from the entry, but these are the mistakes that happen, and you've always got to take it in as much as any sort of race that doesn't go your way. What you can do is always learn from it.
Well,
Shurex is here, back on the absolute charge.
That it's more impressive, I think, in that case, that both Charter and Paula were able to pull in towards Azzy, and Azzy was on brand new tyres. These guys were on used tyres, so they have had some cracking pace from this beginning of the pit window, basically.
Yeah, so they've kind of just been in the background as well. Charter's runs a little bit wide. But they've kind of been in the background running their laps. Shurex will go through. It's just completely done by the corner. 420 back on the charge. And I think that they will slowly start to gap Charter as well. They're chasing down Azzy with a vengeance.
Yeah, and it looks like Shurex is probably pulling in about 4 or 5 seconds on Azzy at the moment. So yeah, I think Azzy's, while taking the right decision, I think to pit a little bit earlier, has maybe just pushed those tyres again too early, too soon to try and build a gap, and it's going to come back to bite him.
Yeah, the 21 minutes to go, and if your pace is already starting to drop, I mean, there you go. The best was a 55.3, last was a 46.4, so it's almost a second off your best dropped. Yeah. With 20 minutes to go, that is plenty of laps, and you haven't really got that big of a nice gap to Shurex now. He's right there in the background of the shot, the red Aston Martin catching up. And all the meanwhile as well, Grim Lilith is just slowly but surely eking out on these two. I mean, look at that, there you go. The best was a 45.3, last was a 45.5. So that car is really sort of hooked up and they're quite happy, and the tyres are not falling off even with 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, beautiful consistency there. Yeah. The times aren't... The times are pretty close. Actually, the top 4, all within the 145s, and then we start trailing off again. Paula again in the 145s, but yeah, there's definitely some pockets of people putting in good times here. But it's a race. We're not on about times. We're on about positions. And yeah, we're going to find out who's going to win this race.
And it's also a lot of times about consistency. You can do that 145, but then it's no good if the next four are, 2 or 3 seconds off the pace. Charter's still trying to get back onto the back of Schurex, but it's a tall order. It's
kind of it. You'd rather do 10 46s than one good 45 and 9 other 46s.
Yeah, exactly. It's just sort of consistency, and a lot of times, like some of these drivers have experienced today, you keep it on the road, you keep your pace up, and you just keep well out of harm's way and keep it happy. I would have liked to have seen the reaction, when Char and Paul are both arrived, and they just see Azzy, just past them, and they realise that they're actually ahead of Schurex. It would have been, what a moment to be. That's the Cerulean, the McLaren 94.
They have been disqualified. It looks like an in-game penalty, maybe. Most likely.
Now, you can, after the 1.18 patch, they did add where you got disqualified if you sped too much into pit lane.
It does say here, even in the stewards reports, it's a disqualification for excess speeding in the pit lane.
Yeah,
so maybe you were right then, probably with the pit limiter not being on. Maybe just hit the button by accident or something.
So there you go, that is what has happened to that the McLaren will now be sat in the pit lane. Not disqualified from the championship, just disqualified from this race, but there you go. The 420 now, Schurex has caught right back up to Azzy, and it looks like this is almost going to be not quite a no contest, but look at how much, even mid-corner speed they can carry. Losing a little bit on the exit, but that is just Aston Martin life. But I would expect in this sector for the Audi to start running away, with that mid-engine rotation that just can't even, through these summer sectors. The 164 is running a little bit wide.
Although saying that,
line, can they do anything down into turn 1? It's going to be tricky, and I think that gap there, I'd say that might just have done it, might just be out striking range.
Yeah. Just it looked like Schurex just massively better on the brakes there, but then the Audi just has the NA. No turbo to worry about, just straight on the throttle, and there you go. A little bit of sliding there from Schurex. So he's punishing these tyres to try and get past Azzy.
Schurex has also taken back the fastest lap of the race now. The purple badge belongs to the P3 driver, the 420. So it does show that in this, at least in the second half of the race, that Aston Martin really does have the pace. He's looking up the inside, this way, that way. Charter's looking ahead, thinking.
I was going to say, Charter.
If you two keep battling, I'm going to help. I'm going to have some of this. He'll definitely be wanting to get behind his, get by his fellow Audi driver at least. It's always kind of nice, when you can manage to, beat someone who's in managed machinery.
Well, he kind of needs to push Schurex to push Azzy. If Charter pulls into the back of Schurex here, that'll put pressure on him to put pressure on Azzy. And there's going to be a mistake here somewhere, I think. I don't think this is going to be the final order.
No, I think it's definitely not over. 16 minutes left, still plenty of laps, but you're going to have to start formulating that plan, because once again it's around about the same gap as we had last time. You can see the Aston Martin is kind of, all over in these, in the hairpin. It's a little bit wide for the 164. That is as close as it dares. And even with the NA grunt coming out of the corner, the 420 now is right there, massive in the wing mirror, in the rearview mirror of the, the 164. 420 is going to slowly have the top end as the Aston Martin finally gets to be able to breathe up into it. But looks to the inside not to be this time, although the 420 does appear better on the brakes. It's just the Audi that manages to keep eking out of danger with that long straight. to the inside. I think the 420 might be going for a cutback, but as he parks it directly on the apex, and then you once again have to work with that turbo lag. You kind of have to be very, very confident that you can get the switch back to plant it so late, you know, way out there to feed the corner off, otherwise you will just go into the driver. Seen that a few times before, so we're kind of working with what we got. Charter has got right up to this, and will the 420 look to the inside and put the car there, but it's just once again a little bit too far back. It looks like Azzy actually ran a tiny bit wide as well, and now Sherex has got to be mindful that the 24 Audi is right behind, and they appear to also have pretty good tyres. Actually, well, Charter, the old generation Audi, is no slouch in a straight line. The 420 will be under attack into turn 1. It comes to the outside. The 24 is right up behind, trying to get the cutback. Once again, not to be. The 420 was parked well and firmly on the apex. And there you go, running a little bit wide. But that kind of shows the intent of Charter, that he's, you know, he's not happy to just sit there. He can see his fellow Audi driver right up ahead as that is Skylar getting out of the way. Blue flags for the Honda, and probably the best point, you know, is just to get out of the way. You see these kind of 3 leaders all battling, and you just think, yeah, I'm not going to be part of that. I'm just going to go over here, let you guys do your thing, and call me when you, you know, when it either goes good or bad for you. Is pretty much cemented and done, but this is the battle for basically second. Charter looks around the outside. Sherex had a slow exit. The Audi looked, but once again just decided to back out of that move. But that battle is really ramping up. What's happened to the Porsche 660? Have they caught the outside curb in the Honda? Or maybe, I think, yep, it's the inside curb for that. Throws the car one way, throws the car the other way. Now it's... Yeah, it seems so. It seems that the Audis actually, they keep managing to scuttle away, you know, down the straight, and then which keeps them out of the danger zone. Sector 1 is still fairly fast, and then the Audi just sort of, the Aston Martin even, sorry, just slowly kind of draws them in towards the end of the lap, but it just seems to be not quite enough. There's not enough of a pace gap, at least at the minute, for them to just blast by, but you know, you end up stuck in this battle. A difficult moment. Looks for the switchback, but then once it does look like though that the 420 has got a slight bit of a run as he places the car on the inside, defending it hard onto the brakes. Will it be a cutback? The 164 goes deep. The 164 has gone deep. They're now too wide coming into the final sector. It's the inside for the 420, but it's the outside. It's the long way around. The 164 has the inside. Charters looking up the inside, manages to 420 manages to slot back in, not lose position to the 24 again. He's stuck once again behind the Audi in probably one of the points where it is the slowest, it feels like. 420 stamps on the gas, but it just... Well, there you go, as he immediately trying to break the toe. It's going to be a defensive move, but look, directly in the slipstream, the 420 is not really gaining like fast enough to just go for the monumental slingshot. If anything, Charter is gaining. 420 goes incredibly wide at turn 1. The 24 is going to look, but once again is blocked off, and as he manages to scuttle away just that little bit more, very, very close racing. And you know, I think Sherex will start to be annoyed because he can't get around Azzy, and poor Azzy is now just under some immense pressure. 10 minutes left to go. The leader is gone. The leader, Grim Lilith, is 20 seconds up the road. They have completely gone. They didn't want to be part of this race, so they've just left us as Grim, really. But for these three drivers, the race has just begun. And like you said, it's just complete. What do? You have to work with, you know, what your car. It appears that after this turn, the Aston Martin seems to start to reel it in. You know, it really comes into its element. But if you don't get anything done by the main straight, then the Audi just kind of slinks away. I really expected in the direct slipstream the Aston Martin to have a little bit more, but even versus the new generation Audi, apparently not. And the old generation Audi, during that point of charter, they're just gaining free couple of tenths for doing nothing, just because of the speed that they've got. So once again, it's going to be close, but I think that gap is going to open out with the NA, and there you go. Look, I think they're just out of striking range again. Now it's mud. I think though it's going to be too long before they close back in, especially with this that keeps happening. But yeah, even though it looks very close, a car length, it's just not enough for that Aston Martin to really do anything. Closed right up again. Will it be a move coming under the bridge? The 164 still holds the line, and no, it will not. Just too far away. You can see the mid-corner speed that the Aston can carry over that Audi, which we're assuming is just the tyres have started to drop off. That Ferrari, that Audi even starts to ail a little bit, but you can't do anything with that advantage. No, and 223 still trying to on that recovery drive, and 660, you know, they've had their fair share of incidents and problems today as well, so they'll be happy they're still continuing on. But that as well is sort of the harder part, is that if you've got a car with straight line speed, you know, that is, you know, you can defend very easily. Back marker traffic will be the black Aston Martin. This might be the moment. This is whereas he needs to get a move on, otherwise he'll be under attack from Sherex, but he is directly being held up by the back marker. It's going to be close, I think, once again. Yeah, that's... we sort of told the drivers as well that we told the drivers, I think at the drivers briefing as well, use the indicators as you would in real life. That is the way you are going, not the way you want people to go, because that is the sort of confusion that you end up with. And for Azzy, they didn't really lose too much time. That could have been a lot worse for the 164 Audi driver. I think the 420 Sherex must have been rubbing their hands together thinking, yes, this is the time. This is, you need to be held up here. My car is good here. Oh, you know, your car is good here. My car is not. You need to be held up, and I need to go for it. But it just did not peel off this time. Yeah, especially when they've got the indicator on, not necessarily where they are going, but where they want you to go, it makes it that a little bit more confusing. You know, you're coming up sometimes, you know, a lot more pace, as much as this is the Aero Championship. Some people are using it to work out, you know, where they are, where their feelers, because some of these drivers, you know, Azzy, Sherex before, they've never raced ACC. They just kind of came in and said, we don't know what our pace is, you know, what if we join? And yeah, I think probably some people, depending on how the rest of the season goes and how their consistency goes, will probably be, will be due a rank up to silver. But you can still, this is still great racing. 5 minutes to go, and it's, second place is still not really settled. It's spread out a little bit more, but I think that's just because of the backmarker traffic has kind of, put this battle on hold, at least for a moment. The Aston Martin needs that one great sector. The Audi is just trying to hold on for dear life. You can see him really trying to park it on the apex, and Charter is just sort of looking at this thinking, can I have the podium, please? Well, sometimes that being that third driver is you've got the best seat, and you've also got the best idea. You can see the backmarker traffic coming up, and you can also see what's going on, with the battle. Are they going to have they made a mistake, or are going to make a mistake that you can capitalize on, or can you get the better run here? You sometimes have to sit back and kind of accept that you're waiting to pounce. There you go, all three have closed up as he runs a little bit wide, but I don't think it's going to be enough for the Aston Martin. Looks to the inside, but it wasn't to be. And Charter closing right up. All of these drivers are, you can tell that they know definitely where the front of the car is. They've practiced that, because you can't really get much closer without touching. Schurex has never just sent it on Azzy, and Azzy has never just, viciously blocked off Schurex. He's put his car exactly where, if you want to go around the outside, you can, but that has been it. And Charter has never sort of seen a mistake happen and completely sent it either, because he knows that, that is just not going to happen. Weaving down the straight, trying to break the toe. I mean, look at the Charter in the background, and that Audi, the gap just closes up as he's just trying to do everything. It's 3 minutes left. It's possible, at least with where our leader is, I'm going to say at least 2 more laps. It's 2 more laps for the 164 to hang on for dear life. And for the 420, they've got 2 laps to make the move. This could be it. But there wasn't an overlap there. The 164 swipes across to take the inside line. 420 is looking for the cutback. I thought the gap was left there for a moment. Just closed off at the last second. Like I said, definitely how long your car is. But I think those tyres are really starting to give off, because it is now, from whereas before, as he just had to run his pace, and the 420 couldn't get by, as he is now having to defend, sort of has to pick, goes for the middle line, the defensive. There's a bit of a squeeze coming in to the 164. The 420 tries to go around the outside once again. Charter's looking at this, just trying to find any way through, but there's just nothing to be had. Not in the tight section of the track anyway. But now the 164 is really having to defend rather than just being able to run their course. But actually, I think the leader has crossed the line before the time, because of the lap times that these people are running. No, 2 more laps.
Just 2 more laps, yeah.
So for the Ball 164, nope, 2 more laps, guys. Backmarker traffic. That's Chuckles in the Mercedes getting well over the track. So well over the track, they're actually off it. That is definitely enough of a gap now, at least as he can breathe a brief sigh of relief and sort of recollect his thoughts, can go back onto the regular racing line. Charter is once again still there, still thinking about it. Neither of those drivers can afford to have a stupid maneuver, because they'll at least one of them will lose out on that podium position. But 2 more laps to go. All of the cars are going to have been the lightest fuel load they've ever been, but also the most worn tyres, especially on Azzy. That car pitted very early. They went for the undercut. Didn't really work out versus the likes of Charter and the Schurex, who just managed to have a slower stop. But that car for the 164, they're on the old tyres. They have worn out. and now they're just having to defend. This is where the Aston Martin really comes into play. Charter has to take evasive manoeuvres almost in the braking zone, really trying to. You can tell that he knows that's where he's losing out. He's just trying to make it so that you're that little bit closer, that half a car length closer could mean anything down the straight, especially for the old generation Audi that's got that speed advantage.
That's a little bit deep.
A little bit deep there for the 164. The 420 is now once again right behind. But we saw this once before, if you remember. As he'll move over to try and break the slipstream. But the Aston Martin just doesn't, even in the slipstream, it doesn't have that, supersonic slingshot ability to get by. And by turn one, there you go. If you're not alongside, you can't really fight it. They can park it on the apex. It'll be incredibly easy. What's happened to the 555's Snowdog and our lone Bentley?
A little bit happy on the farm, perhaps. Yep.
Ooh, yep, the back end is gone. There you go. That once again, I know that feeling of the Bentley. You put your foot down, the turbos spool up, and you feel the rear go light. When you feel the rear go light, you have to make a decision there: back out of the throttle and try, and let the car come back to you, or try and fight the car and and manhandle it. Well, sometimes the latter doesn't work out very well.
As we're up to line nearly. We'll stick with this battle as long as we can, but we need to catch Grim going across the line for the win.
Which for the 115 as well, Grim has basically run the perfect race. I would say they started on pole, they pulled away immediately, they had a great pit stop, they've just never really set a foot wrong or anything, and there you go. For the 115, the race Ventura Porsche, Grim Lilith will take the win, a commanding win as well here at Catalunya. And this battle, the final ones, the 164 has just got to hold it. He knows that the Aston Martin can't do anything down the straights, it just doesn't have the run. And there you go, it will be P2 for Azzy Erdale. What a fantastic race run. P3 for Schurex. Like I said, maybe just if they had that pit stop, what could they have done? And Charter, P4, a great leapfrog all the way up the field, to finish fourth. And this person as well, Blaze Pine. We didn't basically talk about him all race. He's just been there and he's been as low as ninth. But he can't really complain at it today. Didn't think that he was going to have a particularly good race. Didn't say that he was feeling it. And it will be P5 for the Honda driver. Dat Sergel in the 176 will take P6 for 3/10 behind. And one of the other Hondas in the AlphaTauri, Zar, P7 as well. Another day he's gone forwards, and once again, not really talked about him because we haven't really had to. For the 148, the day where they had that monumental pit stop, leapfrogged everyone with Charter, but just was too quick in. And for the 148, they'll take that away now to practice the pit stops, and they will be the last across the line. Well, there you go, results confirmed. Grim Lilith, the 115, takes the win. Azzy in the 164 cements second. That will be a big points haul for his championship battle. Schurex will take P3, will move up quite a lot. Charter takes that P4 in the old generation Audi, and Blaze rounds out the top 5.
Less than 1 second separating 2, 3 and 4. How about that for a race? That was exciting. I was expecting maybe a little bit of a dull race here, but these guys kept us on our toes, and that was really exciting to watch.
Yeah, and that is, sometimes Catalunya kind of breeds that. It seems to be a very strange racetrack. I don't know if you've noticed it when you race here. Is at the start, you either have 2 races at Catalunya. Starts are completely mental, but then the race and the end is boring because everyone has either died, fallen off the track, pitted, or the likes. Or you have a really clean start. Everything is kind of the calm before the storm. And because everyone's done that and stayed out of trouble and have not picked up damage on their car, the last few laps end up completely crazy, like what we saw today. So, great to see the those drivers, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what these can do for the rest of the season. the 164 has come into the season with a bang. The Audis are looking really strong, actually getting to grips with it. The Hondas, clean and consistent. You can't really say much more about that. Moving all the way up into like P5, for example. And can anyone really take the battle to Grim Lilith? The 115 Porsche just looking dominating at the minute, but you do have to look at the rest of the calendar.
Absolutely. Paul Ricard up next. What is there really we can say that we haven't said already? It's going to rain, hopefully. If the settings are right, it's going to rain.
Paul Ricard in the rain. It's going to be an interesting one. Paul Ricard regularly in the dry is just, do you have speed? Yes, you win. But with the rain, might swing it into the Porsche favour. But if they don't get away in Sector 1 and they end up on the wet straight behind, with a Honda, a Ferrari, an Audi, something with more speed, which is basically the whole field, right behind them, then that's it. And then you're going to be completely stuck for Sector 3. So at least I hope you will join us for that. That'll be next week as well for the continuation of the Simufur Championship Season 1 of. And I mean, from you, Fezz, final thoughts before we close it off?
What is there to say? we could have had a 4-way fight for P2. And it's just really bad luck for Bolly to have gotten that penalty, but that's just how it falls sometimes. Grim, flawless from start to finish, took the lead. In fact, was in the lead. It was in pole position anyway, so pole position in the win. So that'll be Grim in first place in the championship now, I think. But yeah, there's some new drivers that weren't there last week really showing their strengths. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to next week now. This is going to be very interesting.
So there you go, and thank you from all of us here at Simufur. Fezz has been our co-coms for this. The stewards, Nate, who's been kept relatively unbusy. It was a fairly clean race, and everyone here. Hope you will join us for the next one. Subscribe and hit the notification so you don't miss that one. That will be next week at the same time. But Paul Ricard, and if you want to come and have a look at our racing series as well, and join the Discord. We're all fairly friendly around here. You can chat to all the racers who've been in this. We're all a very friendly bunch. But from me and from the rest of the team, thank you for watching, and we will see you next week.
Goodbye.